stormwater, I'm assuming everybody knows what stormwater is. It's the water running off the roads into our oceans, rivers, and streams. It's where we've recently gotten all of our recent contracts. Oil and gas, primarily in the fracking-related business, anything to do with flowback water, produced water. It's really not a totals treatment. It's just a pre-treatment. We're removing the last of the hydrocarbons out of the water. And then in industrial process water, anywhere there's processed water at all, we're able to treat it and remove the contaminants out of the water. And I'm going to do this at a fairly high level. If anybody would like a copy of this presentation afterwards, you can see it or we'll email it to you, but there's a variety of things that have happened over the years that have developed this technology and what we've done. I won't bore you with that at this particular point. I'm just going to go right into key aspects. We are a public company. I wish I could say that the stock price was better than where it is right now. It's about 70% down below where it has been because a lot of the projects we're working on have taken a lot longer than we would like. But we're expecting great things to happen in the very near term. For those that are in here that have followed the company know that with recent contracts, we expect those changes to occur in the near term. So the addressable markets, briefly, stormwater, which is where we received our first major contract. It's a $12 million contract. Was signed in October of last year. It's a 3-year contract. The installation is supposed to be completed within the first year. We're coming up on that date right now. I would like to say that it will be completed before frost. That is still our hope. In addition to that, we recently signed a deal with a company called Corvius, which won a $100 million project in Prince George's County, Maryland, and we are part of that technology solution that's being provided, as well as engineering solutions as a part of that as well. So these are just different types of applications where we can be used either in an actual storm drain or an end of a pipe where they just put our product in, or in a larger pipe. You can see it on both sides of the pipe wall. It's essentially an absorbent. You're putting a filter at the end of a pipe. You're treating the water before it goes out to a body of water. You're doing it inexpensively. You're doing it efficiently, and it's 17 patents give us a very unique edge on it. In addition to that, you're doing, instead of ripping up the streets, taking to a local site to treat it, you're treating it on site in a specific location. From the oil and gas side, it's really just being used as a pre-treatment. It's cleaning the water well enough so that it can be reused or used in a system where it reduces the cost of those downstream systems. So people compare us, they say, I'd like to be compared to BASF, but they say, similar to BASF, you're not necessarily known for who you are, you're known for making other things better, and that's what our technology does in the oil and gas industry. We've won numerous awards. We're used, as I said, as a pre-treatment to remove the bad things out of the water so the water can be reused. As well, we can turn the used Smart Sponge back into a liquid and actually sold back to the oil companies. So it has a complete turnkey capability. In the industrial markets, it's really anywhere there's processed water, whether it be pulp and paper or steel manufacturing or any kind of facility, and the drivers really are recycle and reuse. It's all about the ability to recycle. Internationally, we've got activities, 28 projects going on in the UK. In addition to that, we've got various opportunities and projects going on in the EU. It's a developing process. Primarily, we've been ahead of the regulatory curve, and it's finally catching up. There's mandates that are in place for 2015, and we feel we're very well positioned for that. The technology we've touched on, I gave you a demonstration, but it's really the Smart Sponge, as you were asking what's in it, is chemically selective, and when it absorbs a contaminant, it turns it into a solid, and under any amount of pressure you cannot squeeze it back out. It can be molded in any shape or size and deployed in with any kind of engineered calculation for flow rates or treatability or contamination levels. I've already touched on that it has a disposal capability and also very high BTU value of about 25,000 BTUs. It also has a material that's been coated on it, it's the first ever that was designed this way to go after bacteria as well, and that's particularly important in dealing with industrial water or processed water, not as much processed as much as stormwater. It's very unique in that regard. It was the first product approved by the EPA for such a use. Manufacturing capability currently $15 million annually, but we can increase it to more than $100 million very easily, less than $50,000 and with just a few weeks' time. But we have numerous companies interested in taking over our manufacturing, and one in particular we've selected to do that. And they have space all over the country, so instead of building into our own space, we're going to be expanding into others. Various different companies have approached us to take on their technology and incorporate it. Since we've become treatment experts, water treatment experts, what else we could do in the treatment of water, whether it be heavy metals or going after specific contaminants around specific problem areas, landfills, or anywhere there's contaminated water other than drinking water. We also set up an engineering subsidiary for the purposes of helping to guide cities and customers. If they have a problem, the engineering subsidiary can come in and provide those solutions. We partnered with NC State, North Carolina State University, to provide turnkey solutions, utilizing our technology, but also other companies' technology. And that other company's technology all feeds to our company. Whatever those other technologies are, we source all those materials for them and they're supplied. Briefly on the leadership, Bjorn F. White heads up the engineering subsidiary, Jonathan Thatcher, Chief Operating Officer. My CFO has been with me for more than 10 years. My board is made up of people like Olivia Farr, a member of the Merck Pharmaceutical family. Individual members of their family have invested. The M&M Mars family is represented by Carl Seitz. Individual members in their fund have invested. Bill McCartney came from Watts Water, had been with them for 25 years. Quite a diverse board, very, very helpful in many ways. Advisory board is also very helpful. Bobby Kennedy Jr. has been on our board since 2010. Former Governor Clendening from Maryland, former Governor Rendell from Pennsylvania. They have all helped us in their own niche. Some have oil and gas, some have municipal public sector space. Fran Harvey, past Secretary of the Army for military bases. They all have problems with water and contaminated water. So these are just some of the advisory board. They go on in different specific segments, depending on what our purpose is. We brought advisory board members on. Really just closing out, the market opportunity for us is over $7 billion on an annual basis in the stormwater, oil and gas, and industrial wastewater market. The oil and gas is most likely to break through before anything else in a big way, other than the contracts we have right now. It's on the cusp. We validated in the field very recently, and since then we've had numerous companies approaching us to acquire either the rights or to license the rights exclusively, and we're evaluating all of those along with our teaming partners. We feel we're very well positioned in the oil and gas market. We bring a very unique opportunity, and we cut the cost of dealing with recycling. Final components, am I right on time? Good? Okay. Stormwater, $12 million system installation should be completed by the end of this year. Oil and gas, first mobile treatment has been validated. We're in negotiations with various companies right now. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to hire 800 guys with hard hats and boots to sell into that industry. We want to be able to have the technology go with someone who's already in that industry, so we're not reinventing the wheel, and that is what we are in the process of doing right now. Both industrial and international are also working through strategic relationships, the deployment of the technology, and working in areas that we're not reinventing the wheel in any of these areas. This shows our balance sheet as of June 30th. Which is nominal. We have been bringing money in through debt financing because we believe we're undervalued at this point, primarily because of the delays we've seen in public sector, but we believe that will change soon. So in the short term, we've just been doing debt rounds, and we expect to complete another one very shortly. Debt, not equity. This shows a breakdown of the cap table and recent acquisitions from board members when they've had the opportunity as insiders to buy. And really the closing comments is a very innovative technology when water is so critical. And whether you're, interestingly enough, we couldn't sell the product in China before, we couldn't even get interest. And the motivation was to cut costs of disposal. But now the concern about rising costs of water, shortage of water, is a much bigger desire to treat the water for recycle and reuse. Those are the drivers versus cutting costs for disposal. Hugely market opportunities, and the benefit of this is the Smart Sponge is like a razor blade. Once it's installed, it needs to be replaced, it needs to be changed out. So in airports like Newark Airport is probably the closest where we're installed, it gets changed out every year. Where Westchester County airports up in Westchester, a little bit cleaner, lasts a little bit longer. In a fracking operation, it could be changed out about every 4 or 5 weeks. In residential neighborhoods and urban settings, you could look at 3 to 5 years. So it really depends on the type of applications, but it's a razor blade. They're replacing and changing it out based on contamination levels. We're installed in Long Island through various different locations, and it's just a very, very unique time for us. Our biggest problem as a company was we've been way ahead of this environmental curve, but it's all catching up right now. So we feel the time is right, and we're looking forward to the end of 2014 and again 2015. Should be an amazing year for us. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. If there are any questions, I hope I didn't go too fast. I knew that the timing was a little bit tight. Yes, sir.
How does an entity know when the sponge is ready to be replaced? What kind of monitor is
We also have service contracts that come with all this. We sign a deal with Waste Management, so Waste Management will do the back-end service. But how does it know? It knows that the color changes, it darkens, and also the weight. So any particular unit of the product sold, there's a weight, both fully saturated versus when it's not. So it could be that one particular unit size is at 25 pounds saturated, so the first see color and then weight. That's a very good question.
How do you dispose of it?
There are two ways. In stormwater, where you have smaller quantities distributed, it's best to take it to waste energy, where it has a very high BTU value. So BTU value is generally with fuel about greater than 25,000 BTUs.
You burn it.
Where you can burn it as a fuel. So here in New York, they'll take it to Peekskill, and they'll use it in the Peekskill facility, where trash and debris burns at 3,000 to 4,000. In the oil and gas field, they don't want to know anything about waste energy. They just want to be able to sell it. And so when it captures the last of the oil, we have a process which we're about to file a patent on, that we can turn it back into a hydrocarbon, and they can sell it off right there at little or no extra cost, if any.
Sell what off?
Sell the oil, sell the hydrocarbons it's absorbed, so whatever else that's recovered as well. The core Smart Sponge is made of hydrocarbons, so it's all a value proposition for them. If that makes sense. Thank you. Yes, sir.
The smart sponge needs to be in some sort of container.
Yes, sir.
A sleeve.
Yes, sir.
How are those made, and how big are they? And talk about the container.
It's interesting, the question you have is that in the oil and gas industry, it's used in very large tanks. And it's used in these containers that are used, and originally we were using the size of this room. We've learned that they're much better suited to be smaller than that, because they're adaptable if they're smaller and easy to change out. But in this particular site, these are wrapped in a polypropylene material, or wrap, and that's how they're contained. And you can see these deploy, thousands of them in a particular site. So they're contained within the wrapping of that. They're always within something. They're either within a webbing or within a mesh material like that, or polypropylene material like that.
Well, can the customer cut it to modify
They'll
it?
tell us exactly what sizes they want, and we can make them very easily. When this is extruded, it's virtually extruded with almost no pressure and almost no heat. Creates a very porous material, and unlike other membranes or sand filters or other material, it moves high volumes of water through it. But we can mold it when it's made warm into any shape or size. So a customer can say, I want very small pieces or larger ones, but it's not easy to cut once it's in there. You can also put it in a round, in a circle, any kind of shape at all.
What material is it made of?
It's two different types of polymers, SBS and EPDM, and they're ground down to specific particle sizes, they're blended together, and then they're extruded with almost no pressure and virtually no heat. And it creates this very porous material. So most of this is sold in those block forms, except in the oil and gas industry, which is in huge containers, which again, we just reduced the size of those containers. These are them right here. They're loaded with the Smart Sponge. And so what happens is it comes from a fracking well, it goes through this treatment. There's actually two of these. They use the first one as the primary focus, and then after it hits capacity, instead of ever having to lose the system, they then switch to the other. But it only needs one tank, and usually one tank will last 4 to 5 weeks, depending on the contamination level. Yes, sir.
What's to prevent somebody from coming up with a new razor blade?
Well, actually, it's a great question. For us, it took us 7 years to come up with this, and I had the past chief scientists, and I've had Dow Chemical and all these people involved, and they didn't think it could be done. So the materials, you can come up with materials that work really well as a powder or a granular, but putting it in a shape that can flow high volumes of water is almost as critical as the material itself. So the patents, we have 17 patents on it, and we've got some really great strategics that are involved with the manufacturing of this, including a Dow Exxon partnership called Dexco. So I feel very well positioned, and I think it would be a lot easier for a larger company to try to acquire us rather than try to steal the concepts, if that makes any sense. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that the board would buy when they had an opportunity. When was the last time board members were buying? And
I want to say, I believe it was November, first quarter.
why haven't they been able to? I mean, the stock's-
Because there's very active things that are going right now, negotiations in a variety of areas, and they're privy to that. In fact, some of the boards are actually on committees with some of the strategic relationships that we're in negotiations with, so they all have inside information. Otherwise, it would be a great opportunity, in my opinion. In my opinion. Are there any other questions? I think that the next... Thank you all very much. I appreciate your listening to my rather rapid-fire presentation.